I'm Lisa Gonzales, Chief Business Officer here in Mt Diablo Unified. In this week's Ask the CBO, we're going to take a look at the economy and what's been going on across the nation with some emphasis here in California. This is going to lay the foundation for the governor's May revisions that are basically the basis for us building our proposed budget, which we will be presenting next week. You can expect middle of next week that there will be a video as well on the proposed budget after our public hearing. So let's go ahead and start with the Standard & Poor's 500. The S&P 500 is made up of the top 500 companies that are publicly traded. And these top 500 companies make up about 80% of the entire business market in the United States. And it's really used as a barometer of the health of businesses, which if you look at that negative or decrease of 15% there isn't great since the beginning of this calendar year. We've seen this because stock prices have been falling. And what happens when stock prices fall is that the value of companies isn't as great. And then if we have stocks or we have investments, if we go to sell, our money is worth less. So that sort of leads into unemployment in both the United States and in California. You can see California there is the top blue line. The rest of the United States is the orange line. And what this shows is a very long time period, basically from 2012 all the way through the current time. And what you see is the percentage of individuals who have filed for unemployment. Our unemployment that you can see there is a little bit higher than the rest of the nation, but you can see, especially during the pandemic, it was much higher. It's dropping to close to where it was in, maybe 2017 and heading into 2018 there. So that's also an indicator that we take a look at unemployment rates. This has to do with labor force participation, and it really looks at the eligible workers and how many of them are actually employed and or doing something that is earning them an income. What you see here is that we have fewer, again, the blue line. We typically over time have had fewer people participating in the labor force than the rest of the nation, except if you look at 2022, this is the first time in 10 years where there's actually been a shift there, and we have more people that are going to work, participating in work, are employed than the rest of the United States as a whole. So that's an interesting indicator, which reminds us that our economy here in California is much stronger than the rest of the nation. So that's something that we take a look at. Inflation since the beginning of the 2021 school year, so about, 2021 fiscal year, so about a year and a half of inflation numbers here. And you can see back in January of 2021, this is when many businesses were still closed. There was another COVID surge. Students were not learning inside school buildings, and inflation was very low compared to where we are now, where we're up to about 8.3%, and we're waiting for the numbers to come in for the month of May. So this is another indicator that we take a look at, because as we know, when inflation is higher, the cost of doing business is also higher. So that means things like food, materials, paper products, gasoline, tires, utilities, all of those things for a school district increase. You know this as well. If you go to the grocery store, the prices of a lot of things have gone way, way up. This graphic here, and I'm going to move my picture, but this graphic here takes a look at the minimum annual income that's required to purchase a home and live affordably. So if you look at the far right and you look at the United States, you can see that from 2012 in the blue, right here, to 2021 in the orange, to 2022 in the green, the income that's required to buy homes has gone up notably. It's harder to do that. And of course, with inflation, interest rates go up and many more people are getting priced out of the market. Except, let's jump over to this one right here, because this is the San Francisco Bay Area. And we know how expensive it is to be able to purchase a home and to live in this area. As a matter of fact, it looks like you have to earn almost $60,000 a year more from last year to this year in order to be able to afford a home. So why all of this information and why are we sharing this? Well, first of all, the governor has brought forward a fairly strong budget this year. The economy has been good to the state of California, at least up until recently. Again, employment has increased, but there are some concerns that are ahead of us. And that's why this slide is shared, because this is the risk to budgets and to long-term forecasts. And there are really 4 or 5 things here that could affect us moving forward. Inflation, the stock market, the cost of everything going up. And then you have that competing with supply chain issues, where there are a lot of products that we need. And you probably know, if you've ordered things, sometimes you're waiting 2, 3, 4 months for a television set or for new furniture. We've had similar issues with a lot of the food products that we've tried to get, the vehicles that we're purchasing for maintenance and operations and transportation. There are a lot of things that have been really bogged down. The volatility of the stock market is really huge, because our wealthiest Californians are the ones that have the most value. They contribute the most to our economy that's shown in our state budget. So when the wealthiest people are worth less or are earning less, it impacts the rest of the state in very notable ways. So that's why we'll continue to watch the stock market. Also the Ukrainian-Russian war. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but we are certainly hopeful that that doesn't continue, because if it does, there could be long-term implications for the nation's budget. And then on top of that, you add COVID, the fact that we keep saying post-COVID, but we're not entirely post-COVID yet. We've got more surges that are happening right now. That does affect the economy, because we have individuals who, you know, they're not able to go to work, they're not able to provide childcare, whatever that is. And so these are some of the indicators that we're going to continue to take a look at. As I mentioned, we're heading into our proposed budget. We will be having our hearing next week. So we look forward to getting feedback on that. And then what we will do is, whenever we bring a budget forward, we're going to be exactly right and approximately wrong. It's always going to be based on the information we have that day. And so some of this lays the foundation for what the governor is planning on doing. We're looking at a lot of one-time dollars for one-time projects and investments in things like school facilities, and a little bit in transportation, transitional kindergarten, and a lot of newer programs with some additions to our funding base. So I'm going to stop here. If you've got a question, if there's anything in the governor's budget you'd like me to go into more detail about, or you've got something simple that you think would be interesting for other people to also understand, please go ahead and send me an email at cbo@mdusd.org. We'll see you next week.